whatever feels easy to you is probably the thing that you're really good at that somebody else isn't. And the reason that you don't think it's a gift or a talent is because it just feels so easy to you. And I thought that was the best way of putting it because it's so true. There's a lot of things where you do them so effortlessly, naturally, and you think, oh, everybody knows how to do that. And no, not everybody knows how to do that.
Hey there, I'm Cody McGuffie. I'm a husband, dad of 3, and I'm the founder of EverBee.
EverBee.
Where we serve over 1 million creators across the globe, helping them grow thriving online businesses. I believe every single human is a creator, and I believe every single creator should own a business. A business that gives them the freedom to build the life that they dream of. Built Online is where creators, entrepreneurs, and leaders get real insights, real stories, and the edge to build something that actually lasts. This is where the next generation of builders get built. Taylor, what's going on? Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. Happy to be back.
Happy New Year. We're recording this on January 13th. I'm sure it won't go live for another 2 months from now. But how was your holidays? How was everything?
They were good. We kept things quiet. I have a 6-year-old, so it's
Crazy.
kind of the most magical time of the year when you're around that age. So it was fun, stayed home, hung out with family, and good times.
I didn't know you had a 6-year-old. And that
Yeah.
means, okay, so because I have a 6-year-old too. He's turning 7 next month, but
Oh,
uh,
okay. Mine's turning 7 in April. So
okay,
2019 baby.
very cool. Are you gonna have any more or just one and you're done?
No, I don't think so. We love our one and we love our dogs. I think we would get another dog before we would
Okay,
have another human.
okay, deal, and that makes sense. Yeah, we have 3, and it's a beast. So we have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old just turned 5, and a 1-year-old. So we're still kind of in
Oh
the
my goodness. Yeah. I think about it in the terms of almost like you're beating video game levels, and I feel like we've come so far that I don't know if I want to reset the video game and go back through potty training and,
it's a beast.
all of those things.
It is a beast. I would say I'm curious, and this is probably a whole nother conversation. You being, we talked a little bit before that we hit record, but in your second year of full-time entrepreneurship, um, how has that been for you? I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but how has it been for you to be a mom as an entrepreneur, full-time entrepreneur, versus you were also, I think you were working full-time before you were a full-time entrepreneur, right? Being a mom also. So you have this experience of both. How's it been for you?
It's been good. I prior to me going fully self-employed, for one, I'm a natural early riser. So that's always been kind of part of my framework. When I still worked a full-time corporate job, I was waking up like 3, 4 in the morning and working on what I was looking to grow with my business before going to my 9 to 5. So it was like working super early, drop off at daycare at the time, and then going to work and repeating that every single day. So to be very honest, it's very, very simple now because
Mm,
I still get up early, but I don't get up at like 3 a.m. early where, that's a little drastic. I used to tell people that and they were immediately shocked. So now I'll wake up at like 5, 6, and then I can have a morning. Now my son, he's in first grade. So it's,
mm.
breakfast, get to the school bus, and then I can come home, work. And I don't have much of that work after he gets home because I'm able to use my time during the day.
Do you feel like you get to show up better or even or worse, as a mom? Meaning because it could be worse, and some people would say that was like, "Well, the business consumes my mind, all day." You seem like a very disciplined person. I picture you compartmentalizing pretty well. But I'm curious if or does it help you actually show up better to be a mom because you have more time, a little bit more time, or a little bit more creative energy, or what has it been for you?
I would definitely say that I'm glad that I give off that I compartmentalize really well. I wouldn't say that I always do.
Mm,
I think that's one of the biggest struggles I've had being an entrepreneur is that I'm just always thinking of things from a growth perspective and, "Oh, that's an idea," or, "This is a solution to this problem I was facing last week," or whatever the case may be. But I will say that the I've been very, very fortunate. I'm very grateful for the success that I've had in entrepreneurship. And so I think more so the financial layer and what I've been able to create for my family, I think that has made me a
Mm.
better mom and a better partner and just better friend in life, which I always hear the phrase of people say, like, "Money doesn't buy happiness," but I feel like it does to some extent because it takes off so many different weights that you have on you, and I feel like I had a lot of weight on me before with trying to pay for daycare and, car payments and just every life expense that there is, especially being a parent. I feel like that's been lifted, which has made me more present.
I love that. I completely agree. Yeah, I think it's money doesn't buy happiness is typically someone that says that is typically someone that doesn't have money, typically.
It's
Um,
like a justification, it's
yeah,
like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna just, like money doesn't buy happiness, so, like, I'm gonna just keep telling myself that so that I feel better." And then
totally.
if you have
And
some money, then you feel lighter.
you definitely feel lighter. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say, like, of course, if someone's like, "Well, money, Cody doesn't," I've heard this before. Like, Cody, money doesn't buy happiness. And it's like, who the hell says it does? Like, I don't even understand where that came from. Like, I never once said like, I have more money equals I will be a happier person internally. It's like, no, but it will certainly alleviate
Yeah,
the financial struggles that are causing me a lot of not happiness, right? It's definitely helps it to where I can not stress about buying someone dinner when I look forward to like I wish I could treat my family to this dinner. Like
yeah,
that makes me happy in the moment. So that makes me joyful in the moment. Does it like cure my internal, you know, my internal happiness? Short term, that's fleeting, but like yeah, it certainly helps, of course.
yeah, yeah, so I would say that I think is what makes me more present.
Mm,
I still have thoughts. I still have, ideas and things that populate, but, I've kind of gotten to in a really good habit with I have a text message thread with myself, and so when I have random thoughts, ideas, I'll text it to myself.
cool.
So I think in some way that helps a little bit where it's not I'm not coming up to my office and sitting behind my computer. I'm just sending myself a text, and then, for example, this morning, I went through my text thread, and I'm like, "Oh, let me add that
Yep.
into my planner. Let me add that to my to-do list." And I have all of those things ready for me so that they're not lost.
Yeah, super cool that you share that. So thank you for sharing that because I actually forgot that that's like a thing too for me too. I do that absolutely. I'll challenge. Can I challenge you a little bit on that? You mentioned the word struggle with those thoughts, and then you've also mentioned like I'm working on this, like as if it's like almost like a negative thing. But to me, I feel like that's actually so positive and such like a superpower. That's so. I almost wonder if, uh,
It can be good and it can be bad, I think.
okay,
I think if you have the type of personality where it becomes almost addictive and then you let it impact other areas of your life, I can see where that can be really negative. I have never struggled with coming up with ideas, which I know a lot of people do, and for that, I'm very grateful that my mind works that way because it's not always that easy, I think, for most people. Um, but if it's ever so consuming that and I've been that way. When I first started my print on demand business, was very, like, locked in, almost, kind of scary to get near if I was in the zone and I was focused. So, that's where it can, I think, be negative, but I agree, it is a positive thing to have.
yeah, you do need that. I think there's sprints where you need that, right? There's certainly sprints, and then of
Yeah.
course, like it could damage relationships eventually over time. Certainly will. Like, I can't be like thinking about business. I need with my three kids. Like I need to be present with my wife when we're talking. Otherwise, it just won't be a good relationship, right? So there's certainly things that need to be done, but also like that is part of who you are in your nature, and that's why you're even here. So it's like it's one of those things you don't want to like suffocate, but you do want to like systematize. I think compartmentalize and like do figure out your systems, like
Yes.
texting stuff to you. Like I think that's great. I do the same exact thing, and that helps me. Like okay, I can be more present now. I'm not going to forget that I had that thought.
Yes. Yeah, no, and you mentioned the word sprints. I feel like that's the perfect way of putting it. It's like you're not always in that crazy, like almost like hyperfixation mode. It's okay, here's a little bit of a season, a little bit of a sprint of okay, I need to really work towards this
Yep.
outcome, this goal, and then you can rest a little bit and you kind of toggle between the two. That's what I find myself doing.
Absolutely, totally. I want to shift gears a little bit just to give some context for who Taylor is, because we just kind of like jumped right in, which is great. But Taylor came on. You came on the podcast in October 12th, 2023, episode number 40. which is crazy. We were just like reminiscing. I'm like, wow, that's over 2 years ago.
Yeah, I really think that time has felt like a dream in the last few years. I mean, I'm getting older and they say when you're getting older, time goes by faster, but
It feels like
it's
that.
scary.
It is. And giving a snapshot of the business, then you were, I think, just starting your full-time entrepreneurship, like, and your main revenue source was your Etsy shop. At the time, it was print on demand Etsy shop, and you were crushing it. And fast forward now to 2 years to where we are today, over 2 years, or about 2 years. Where are you at today? Can you give us an update of what has changed? What is the same? Any
Yeah.
revenue numbers that you're happy to share? Our audience always loves like hearing actual inspiration of real numbers. I personally do. I live off of that stuff. So
Yeah,
share.
no, I totally get that. I used to hunt for numbers when I was first starting. I'm like, let me just see somebody who's doing something that I want and
Yep.
I can model after. Yeah, so last time I was here, I was coming up on my first year of selling print on demand products. I started my first shop in October of 2022. So in that first year when we last spoke, I had just reached about $80,000, I think it was, and I ended up hitting a little over 100,000 in revenue. That's not profit, but revenue for that first full 12-month cycle. Today, I have 2 shops. I started a second shop in 2024, late 2024. And all time, I'm a little over $1.1 million in revenue across 2 shops. I'm really close to 1.2. I'll probably hit it if everything keeps going the way it's going projection wise. I should probably hit that by like March, maybe April at the very latest,
Mm,
depending on what Q1 looks like. But crazy.
amazing. So what is
Feels weird
20
saying
that,
that.
first of all, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
incredible. And that's amazing. And I'm so happy for you. And you deserve it. And you know this. And we're for people that have not got there. So like Taylor, maybe like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right? Where it's like you wanted to be Taylor today. Can you give us a snapshot of give us some sort of like glimpse into what that actually looks like from a numbers perspective? So in 2025,
Mhm.
how much revenue did that look like? And then if we could break that
Yeah,
into monthly and then even daily, I think would be a cool way to like almost like look at it. Like what's like your average day of revenue? And if it doesn't hit that average, you're like, huh, it was a down day. Just because I think
yeah,
that was really important for me when I was first starting like 10 years ago in like online business. I remember the first time I saw like I think it was $1,000 day from a friend of mine. It wasn't even mine. It was $1,000 day. And I'm just like, you made that today? Like, I don't get it, you know? So can you
yeah.
share that?
Yeah. So 2025, I did across 2 different shops. Those 2 shops were open for the full calendar year. I did a little under $650,000 total in revenue. So shop 1 did around like 240 so in revenue. Shop 2 did around $400,000 in revenue. I was just putting all of that together. It's, tax season. So I'm like getting all of my CSVs and downloading them and getting them to my bookkeeping team, my accountant. But of that, I generally see between like 25 to 30% profit margins over the entire year. So in total, I had about $182,000 in profit across the 2 shops. Month to month, honestly, I don't get so caught up in the daily numbers anymore. That's something that I used to be probably that one of those things that I would hyperfixate on in the beginning. Taylor 3 years ago would be looking every single day, refreshing even, hour by hour. I
Sure.
try not to do that anymore. I don't even have like the Etsy app on my phone, the Etsy seller app on my phone anymore. I try to make it very just come into my office and that's when
Mhm.
I'm focusing on it because, at 2 in the morning, it really doesn't matter. But monthly, I'm generally seeing around 10 to 15,000 in revenue, or in profit in some months, depending on if it's Q4 or,
Mhm.
January through September. And then weekly, generally, I would say on average, I'm seeing like 2 to 3,000.
Amazing. And then daily, we're talking like in the hundreds. I know you don't look at it anymore, but
Yeah,
like I wanted to like hit emphasis on that. So that means daily they'd be in the multi hundreds would be like an
yeah.
average day.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say somewhere between 300 and 700. The lowest days that I typically see are like high 200s.
Amazing. So cool, and I'm so happy for you. Congratulations again. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very strange. I kind of have this weird thing where I don't try to hyperfixate on like the numbers and whatnot. I feel like those are kind of just like a result of what actions you're taking. So I try to more so focus on my implementation, what I'm doing in like my task load and not get so consumed by the numbers because I have had periods of time where I was very consumed. Like I said, 3 years ago, Taylor would be refreshing and looking at everything and it would be a meltdown if I felt like things were slowing down. And so I try not to focus
I
on
love that.
that as much, as strange as that sounds. I feel like
No,
most
it
people are
doesn't.
very
It's
into it.
It might sound strange to some, but to me, it's absolutely not strange. I mean, I think it's the evolution of us as a business operator, as like an operator, right? It's like we understand now that the numbers are the output, and
Yeah.
the input is we can't control outputs. We can only control the inputs. And inputs are, our listings, our creative, our designs, our ads, our like whatever these things that create the actual output. So I think it's important to like almost like zoom out and look at the numbers, which is what you literally just described. But like understanding that we are focus on the input actually produces the output. I think that's where I think all creative operators, all these like full entrepreneurs, we all have to go through this process of learning that. I think I'm
Yeah.
still learning myself. Like I haven't figured it
Yeah.
out fully either.
No, I completely agree. I feel like in the beginning, I think why I hyperfixated on it so much was because I was so used to trading time for money and just, you go to
Mm,
work, you work an hour, you make X amount of dollars. And now I've had to have a really big perspective shift of there's things that I'm doing and working on that I'm not necessarily going to get paid back or like get paid for until weeks or months sometimes, depending on what it is. And so I think that's really helped where in the
mm,
beginning I'm like, wow, I woke up at 3 a.m. Why am I not, making
mm,
this amount of money? I feel like my efforts are this level. And if those types of efforts were put into a traditional
mm.
type of, work an hour, get paid for an hour type role, you would see the fruit of that effort right away. So I think that's why I've kind of shifted as well.
I love this. More specifically, because a lot of people are wondering this right now, specifically if they sell on Etsy,
Mhm.
um, they question whether they should open another shop or not. For you, just a high level breakdown, are both of them niche specific? I'm assuming yes, but like, are they in their niches, like a print on demand shop that has a specific niche, and then another print on demand shop that has a specific niche? Is that correct, or are they more general, or whatever?
So one is more general. My first one is more general, where I have tons of different niches, but I would say that one is more product specific. I'm mainly selling just apparel, tote bags, and phone cases. I kind of consider the phone cases always catch people by surprise. They're like, wait, what? Like that sounds so random. But my mindset with it is that they're all kind of like accessory pieces in a sense, like wearables. Like even though you don't wear your phone case, it's almost like part of your, you know,
Yeah,
aesthetic to some people. And then the other one is what I consider more niche specific. So it's focused around one main core topic, and I'm much more diverse with the product types in that second shop.
cool. I'm curious about both. Because there's so many ways to win on Etsy, but also just in commerce in general. So that's why it's like so cool to like dive in. For your general shop, how do you end up actually? So that means to me, general, when you're like more general, you kind of like you're jumping on trends, you're identifying patterns early on, and that's kind of the game, correct?
Yeah.
Is that okay? True. And then for the niche, you don't really have to jump on the trends. I mean, you certainly need to be on them, but it's mostly about like really kind of like leaning into it. For example, if you do nurses, nurse moms, for example, like you can just craft a bunch of different types of products and designs that appeal to that specific nurse mom. Or is there another process that you have that I'm not really bringing up?
Honestly, I would say that it's to some extent, I think the word trend sometimes gets a bad rep. I feel like there
Sure.
is almost these like eras on Etsy, so to speak, where
Mm,
3 years ago people loved cheetah print mixed into things like cheetah print in letters and certain graphics and whatnot. And I don't think designs and things that are actually working change that drastically, but I think kind of those aesthetics change a little bit. I think of it almost like fashion or music, where a lot of times you'll listen to certain songs and we kind of go to songs that sound more like what were popular in the 80s or popular in a different era, and then they kind of circle back. Same thing with fashion. I think that's kind of even more funny when we look at some things, because now there's a lot of fashion that's coming back from the early 2000s, which can be a jump scare to some people, that were part of them and originally wearing them in certain time periods, and to see a younger generation wearing them. But I think the designs do the same thing, where it's almost like they're not that different in terms of format, just what is inserted into them slightly
Mm,
changes. And I don't find that that changes as frequently as what the
people
word
think,
trend
yeah,
sometimes make it seems like. I think you hear the word trend and it sounds like
6 months
this
burnout.
urgency. Yeah, it's like, "Oof, oh my gosh, if I don't do this right this second, then I'm out. Like, I'm not going to see the
Mm,
results from it." So, I feel like defining what a trend is in a sense, and that's what I find in both, because there's certain themes that work really well in certain design styles for apparel, for, tote bags, phone cases. Really, a lot of them are very similar and can go from product to product. And then in my other shop that's more niche specific, the themes change as well. So I do a lot of like event-based things in that shop. And if you think about, birthday themes, for
mm.
example, we talked a little bit about this prior, but we both have 6-year-olds turning 7. And so I don't know if your 6-year-old's doing the same 6-7 thing that kids do.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
if you know, what that's
You
all
know,
about.
yeah,
Nobody really
6,
understands
7,
it,
yeah.
but but for example, that it's funny that that's actually like a theme, and that wouldn't be a
Right.
theme 2 years ago, right? But it has had some shelf life. I'm seeing people are selling teacher products right now for Valentine's
Mhm,
Day, because the teacher's gonna wear that, the kids are gonna laugh, and it's going to connect. So
mm.
I think they have a longer shelf life than what you might traditionally think when you hear the word trend.
Very interesting. Okay, cool. What transitioning a little bit more, just because we're 21 minutes in, and I want to make sure I get to some of the gold, continue to get more gold. What is Taylor's play here? What's your long term plan for your business? Do you have one? Is it more just like I'm just enjoying it, I'm living this like lifestyle, like business that I'm just gonna like keep on doing, and I'm gonna keep on growing? Or is it like, are you the type of person that's like thinking of like, I want a specific outcome, I need to be hit a certain number, I'm going to drive, continue to drive to that, however long it takes. How do you typically think about your life planning, but also your business planning?
I don't think too far. Of course, I have goals like any person does. I think more of my goals are more personal related. Like my husband and I, we want to build a house. So of course, a driver there is what we're doing in our careers to get
Sure.
to that goal to build the house that we want. But honestly, I take a really simple approach and I just do what feels good. And what feels good to me today probably would have not felt fun or good for me 3 years ago, and what I don't know what will feel good to me to do in 3 years from now. It's a very privileged thing for me to be able to say, that I'm in a place where I can kind of just do what feels good, but that's honestly what I just focus on. I think that in a not to get like woo woo weird way, but I just think that when we're doing something that feels good to us, we just put a little bit more love into it and we usually get a better result anyway. So if I'm
Yeah.
trying to fit, a triangle in a circle hole, it's not ever going to work. So I try to just avoid things that feel hard.
I love that. It sounds like there's some like universe stuff that you probably manifestation. You probably sounds like you kind of like you believe in a lot of that stuff, and it's served you. Am I off by saying that? Because like certainly that's where I kind of like lean is to like do things that make you feel good, makes you feel like you are contributing, that light you up, and tends to like it's and taking inspired action versus like forced action, I think is the key. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you kind of like really in tune with how you're feeling. So therefore it takes less energy to
Yeah, no, I
actually achieve
agree.
your goals.
I definitely lean that way, and, like, my husband and I would say, like, on a woo-woo scale, we're probably 12 out of 10, but I
Cool.
also am a very practical person, and I understand that a lot of people need things to feel practical. They don't wanna hear, "Oh, well, if you just believe you can do it, you will." I think
Which,
that the
by the way,
practical
totally
sense
true,
of
by the way.
I agree, it is 100% true, but from a practical perspective,
Yeah,
I also also a very analytical person, which I think woo-woo and analytical, it's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out the whys of the
mhm,
universe, which also it feels impossible, but I think what I've learned or what I've felt that I've learned is that from a practical standpoint, when you feel good about what you're doing, when you are believing truly in your heart that you can do something, you're going to have such a different output and input really to what you're trying to achieve. Your actions are going to be different. You know, if you don't really believe what you're doing is going to work for you, it's not because it's just woo woo magic, it's not going to work, but because you're probably not putting the level of effort of somebody who truly believes that they can
yeah,
get there.
that's right. I completely 1000%. I would say on the woo-woo scale too. I didn't know that was a thing, but, if I have to place myself there, I'm probably a 12 out of 10 too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty into it. Yeah, and it's cool. It's like if you like, I know we're just using woo woo, like that word. I've never even used that word so many times, but for the sake of conversation, if you do that and you back it up with like so much action, it almost like
Yeah.
makes the outcome that you're trying to achieve inevitable.
Yeah.
It's like
100%.
because it's really belief, and if you just
Yeah.
back up belief with so much action, 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 it's like it's just a matter of time. It's just that time is the only component now, a variable
Yeah.
that we're changing there. So, um, next question for your Etsy shops, because you are highly successful on Etsy. How much do you get concerned about like platform risk of just like Etsy just algorithm changing or somehow like shop suspension? I don't want to like take us down like a fear hole, a fear rabbit hole, but it is certainly something like comes up, and we do see it, right? So how much do you think about that? Maybe you don't. Maybe do you worry about it at all? Are you leveraging against it somehow, like maybe with like your educational piece of your strategy, or like how do you feel about that?
I I don't like to think, of course, of the worst case scenario, especially if there's no sign that the worst case scenario should or would happen.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't maybe I am skeptical, but I don't think that Etsy closes a shop for no reason.
Mhm.
From my experience, anytime I've seen that happen to someone, there was a reason, and maybe they genuinely didn't realize that that was an actual reason that their shop could be
Mm,
shut down, but I would say majority of the time, that's typically what happens, so, follow the rules and you don't have a problem, and
mhm,
I follow the rules, so I don't feel concerned. Of course, there are sometimes there's things with, a lot of frivolous trademarks, where, people are able to get these trademarks for the craziest things. I had a student who they had a item that had the word bruh on it, like BRUH.
sure.
Didn't think anything of it and, had their listing taken down because that was something that is trademarked. I'm
I
sure
didn't know
six
that.
seven will be trademarked next. But sometimes there's those like frivolous trademarks that you don't really think. So in some sense, I think about those types of things, but I also just what will be, and I really don't stress about it.
Cool. I love that. I mean, that's obviously we're trying to create businesses to not have stress. So the fact that you're not feeling stress is amazing with that. What is the plan or the strategy or I guess the ideal outcome for, because you also have this, like, which we didn't even talk about, like you have this like awesome YouTube channel where you're teaching other creators and other Etsy sellers how to like create and like be successful on Etsy as well. So like what is the goal? Is there a goal with this as well? Or is it just something that you love and it's just like another creative outlet for you? How do you approach that?
I would say it's a combination. I mean, that part's a business as well. Of course, I think everybody knows that people, of course, they create content because they enjoy it. You have to enjoy it to make videos, but we also transparently we create content because it's another income stream.
Sure.
I don't think that's a secret to anybody. I enjoy it. And I honestly, I wouldn't say I have like a direct goal. There's cool things that, hit 100,000 subscribers, like little things like that, that would absolutely be cool. But I don't necessarily have this like crazy long-term vision.
Mm,
When I first was transitioning from corporate world to what I'm doing now, so I used to work for a franchise. And so what I did, just a quick little backstory. I won't
yeah.
give like the whole roundabout, but I worked for the franchise in a franchise location when I was just getting out of high school. And while I was going through college, I worked my way up and I was very successful in that franchise, became a manager of one of the locations, and did a lot of really great results with that location. And so then I started working for their corporate office to teach other franchise owners how to do the same thing. And so when I was transitioning to full-time self-employment, that's kind of what I do now. I
Mm,
have my print on demand businesses that I've scaled and I enjoy and I do them really well. They really don't require a lot of my time where I've gotten them to today. And so I have a lot of free time and I genuinely love
teaching.
education, teaching, and so what I'm doing now is literally the exact same thing that I did when I worked for my corporate job. I'm just doing it for a different industry and
A better
myself.
That's so cool. It's so cool you recognize that pattern too, and that makes total sense to me. Yeah, and you're also doing it in a much cooler and more exciting, and I'm biased, of course, just in a new, like a better industry, right? It's like your online businesses, you're teaching people how to like be financially free. You're helping like the smaller guy who doesn't necessarily own a franchise, which those guys are small businesses too. Respect. It's more like it's very cool what market we get to play in.
Yeah,
Um,
and I get to be so much more creative with it, which I never thought of myself to be a creative person, but I've learned that you build creativity, it's just a muscle, you just have to make it stronger, and as I've made my creative muscles stronger, I've come to really love the creative aspects of print
mm,
on demand, but then also the creative aspects of creating content and editing things and putting them together and, like, having this vision and watching it come to life, and
so
being
cool.
able to have that creative control where before when I was teaching, I was given, "Okay, teach this." And this is exactly how it has to go. You can't deviate from it because it has to be consistent. It has to be the exact same for every single person. And so to have that creative freedom in how I'm teaching and what I'm teaching, I think it just takes it to another level where I'm like really able to just enjoy what I'm doing.
I love that, and I think too. I think you said you sparked something in my mind too. Of like we think of creative stuff, and we think about designs typically, right? We think about colors, and we think about like fonts and like these things. Because I would not consider myself like a creative person either, inherently, like in the past. But now I'm recognizing too, like creators, we're all creators. All humans are creators. We all get to create our lives. We're creating our lives right now as we speak, right, with our thoughts. And and the reality is like there's so many different ways to be creative. Meaning, for me, I'm not like a designer. I don't really, it doesn't light me up. I'm not really good at it. I tend to like, but I'm really, I lights me up, and I'm really good at like designing business systems. I can like just create a business model very quickly. It's very intuitive for me. And like that, I recognize now that, oh, that's my creativity. Like that's my creative juice. And other people right now listening to this thinking that I'm not a designer, I can't be like Taylor. The reality is like there's different ways. You have different gifts, and you just have to like kind of like look internally, kind of just try things. And you do have lots of different tools and gifts inside of you. All you have to do is just take a lot of action, of course, and believe that you can do it.
Yeah, I heard this thing recently and it was talking about how whatever feels easy to you is probably the thing that you're really good at that somebody else isn't. And the reason that you don't think it's a gift or a talent is because it just feels so easy to you. And I thought that was the best way of putting it because it's so true. There's a lot of things where you do them so effortlessly, naturally, and you think, oh, everybody knows how to do that. And no, not everybody knows how to do that. But
Yeah.
I in the name of challenges where you challenged me earlier, I will challenge you back on one thing. And that is that when I consider myself not to be creative, something that I've always been good at or have enjoyed, and those who are saying that they're not creative might align with this because birds of a feather flock together, but I'm very good at systems and patterns. And
Mm,
what I've learned is how to systematize creativity and systematize a design. If you look at enough designs in front of you, you'll start to see patterns and it like, okay, text here, graphic here, text here. Oh, I see that 5 times over with
mm,
these 3 different fonts and these 3 different elements. And I think when you look at it from the lens of what you're maybe good or better at, I'm really good at recognizing patterns and systems. You can find that if you look at it through a different lens. I think
yeah,
sometimes it's like when you're looking at a design, for example, you're looking at it from this lens of like, okay, like how do I create something that's unique and different? And a lot of times you don't need to recreate the wheel. You just need to find the system that's working.
so true.
I recently, this is not everybody's gonna like this, but I recently listened to Kim Kardashian's masterclass, which I, love, hate, whatever you feel towards any type of person, that you can learn something from everyone, right? So
Absolutely.
she made a statement in one of her modules that was find what's working and perfect it. And that I think is so true to, I mean, all types of businesses. Just find
Yep.
what's working and perfect it. You don't need to recreate the wheel. It's just like music and fashion are recirculating. When we talked about that earlier, the same thing. There's not really necessarily anything that's drastically new. I
So
think we're kind of in the age where it's like not a lot of things are going to be completely original or completely new ideas. It's just going to be packaged up and presented differently.
that's right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, EverBee research, like our research tool, was built on literally this fundamental of just, hey, analyze what is working and improve upon it. Like do it over and over again. Like there's nothing that needs to be. And the cool thing about it is the things get invented. The really cool things that we appreciate in life that we think are super novel inventions, they're actually just the 100th or 1000th iteration of the other thing. Like there's like we just think that they're just like novel, like this coffee cup. It's like, oh man, it's so like creative. It's like, no, that thing was like done over and over again millions of times. And or this microphone, right? It's like no one just came up with like a better microphone. It was there was so many other microphones that were kind of copied, improved a little bit, copied and improved a little bit, and eventually like turned into this thing. And I think that's a really important thing that you mentioned there. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's I think the biggest hang up that people get stuck on is they think that they have to come up with this completely unicorn of a concept or an idea. Relating back to the masterclass where Kim Kardashian said that she has Skims and she always wore shapewear, hated that it left lines under her clothes and that people could see it, and that's all she eliminated. That she just found a way to make it that you don't have those indentations and those lines. So it's
Yeah,
really something so, so simple. We overthink things. We
yeah, we do.
really do.
We totally do as humans. Guilty of it also. I think it's time to jump into rapid fire questions. You ready?
I I'll get ready. I'm ready.
Ready. Favorite business book? What is it? Favorite business book?
Oh, right now it is Ready, Fire, Aim by Michael Masterson.
Cool. I've heard that one before. What's one thing that you wish that you knew before starting your businesses?
You will see the best results if you are the fastest implementator.
I like that. What's the worst advice that you've ever received? The worst advice.
Oh, the worst advice? Um, Probably growing up and being told that the only way to be successful is to work a 9 to 5.
Interesting. How many hours do you think you work in a week?
Um, Probably about 30 to 40, I would say, across, all of my efforts, so across print on demand, content, my community, all of those different types of things. But I try to keep a very traditional, like 9 to 5 in the sense, which is funny, I'm like bashing the 9 to 5, but then I'm here in my office at home from 9 to 5. But my husband, he works a more traditional job. So I try to just align when I'm working with when he's
Makes sense.
working and then when our son is at school.
It's funny you say that too. It's I also kind of do the same thing. Like my wife and I, we have a schedule that I pretty much work 40 hours a week, also like 45 hours a week, like sometimes 50. But like 9 to 5 or eight to 5 for me, or 8 to 4:30. That's what we do, 8 to 4:30. Um, But I think routine is also important. That's why it's like when you start to get into like operational mode, like you don't always, I know we dream of this life of like, I want to be creative and like float around and like do whatever I want whenever I want. And like that's all true and stuff too. But like actually operations, like you kind of need some like routine that you need to get into
Yes.
to be
It's like
effective.
people who retire where they retire and they're, not gonna do anything, and then they end up getting a part-time job at somewhere that they enjoy. I think it's the exact same principle.
That's interesting. I think the thing that we want is optionality. Is that's what we really want. We want the option to like, if I don't want to work today, I won't work today. And that's the key, I think. It's like if I don't have to sit at my desk today, or if I don't want to, I guess I can get up and leave. That's the important piece.
Yes, 100%.
How would your audience or your maybe not your audience, sorry. How would your friends and family, people closest to you, describe you in like 3 words?
Oh gosh. I would think that they would say, maybe hope that they would say clever, intuitive, and silly. I
Hmm,
think that's 3. I'm gonna ask my husband that later.
nice, yeah. Who do you think should be a business owner?
Somebody who has a good bounce back rate, somebody who can get punched and get back up the fastest. I think that is probably the roughest way of explaining it. But
Mm,
if you're the person who's very frustrated because the line is long at the grocery store, then you're probably going to be very frustrated with a lot of things in entrepreneurship.
interesting. So resilience is the bounce back rate. I think of resilience, right? It's like you just get punched in the face and you gotta just like keep moving forward.
Yes, and the bounce back rate being that how fast you do it.
Mm,
Everybody gets back up at some point, but sometimes it takes people years. Sometimes it takes people seconds, to brush it under the rug. I mentioned the waiting in line because my husband, he's somebody who not would not be and knows that he would not be good at entrepreneurship.
interesting. Okay.
Very, very self admitting by him. And we were at Target around the holidays and they had, of course, a super long line and he was getting frustrated. And I'm like, if this is our only stressor today, that we're waiting a little bit extra long in line for the gifts that we have the financial ability to afford, well, that we are living an amazing life.
Totally. And very, very interesting perspective there. I think about the bounce back rate. I like what you said there. I want to kind of like double click on that. Like the time. It's like the time of recovery is important.
Yeah.
And it's not something that people talk about very often. And it kind of just brings up a lot of people in my mind right now. And I think about people that got wiped out in the 2008 crash,
Yeah.
which we were young in that time. Like we were super young during that time. But like I still know people that are like still hurting from the 2008 crash. Like they still have not bounced back mentally, financially, anything like that. And it makes me feel like, but then there's other people in that same exact that got wiped out completely that like have made way more successful, mentally grow so much. And like there's this spectrum, and
Yeah.
that I think that's what the definition that you're talking about is like that those people bounce back. These people still have not. And that's interesting.
Right. Like I feel like the word resilience, it's almost like an
Broad.
umbrella to that, right? It's like, okay, like everybody has resilience, but it looks different to some extent, and then like the bounce back rate. I forget where I first heard that. First heard it on a podcast and it really clicked because I've thought of myself in certain situations where I've really let something get me down and it prevented me from implementing, from executing, from just getting back on the horse, so to speak. And so I found that to be true is there's so much in the entrepreneurial space. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are amazing at consuming content, whether it's, through podcasts, YouTube videos, books. We love to learn. We love to just get as much information as possible. But the entrepreneur who's going to have that fast speed of implementation and get back on for every time that they have a hiccup, because they're inevitably you have to have hiccups along the way. The hiccups aren't necessarily a bad thing. They're just uncomfortable. If you can get through them really, really quickly and bounce back and try again, then you're going to completely outperform the person who's just consuming and over and over and over again.
100%. I remember particularly, I'm curious if you had like a moment like this. I remember particularly in the past, maybe 12 years ago, when I was kind of like just getting into the entrepreneurship game. Before entrepreneurship was like a word, it was more like I was interested in, like, I was going to like these business meetups while I was working full time, like on Wednesday nights, and like learning from this like guy we called coach, and it was super valuable, and I learned a lot. But I remember specifically after I like read a bunch of books, did exactly what he said to do, bought his course for $1,500. Like, I spent the money to invest in myself. And I remember specifically saying this to him. I said, man, I feel like I know enough. I think I just like the execution piece like needs to catch up. Like, I need to go and do the work now. Like, the consuming part is I'll learn more, but it needs to flip around. I need to be spending 90% of my time executing versus, versus the other way around. And that was a big unlock for me. I'm curious if you had a moment like that in the past.
I I don't know if I've had like a definitive moment of that. I think I just my entire life I've, had tons of different obstacles that I think I just wasn't able to define until now of like
Mhm.
I've just okay, I've always been a glass half full kind of person. So I don't think I have maybe I think I'm just a little bit abnormal. I don't think that I have that same like fear, I guess.
Mm. You know what's interesting is you just said that, like, I think I'm just a glass half full person, and it makes me. I was having a conversation about this the other day, about like identity,
Mhm.
and I'm not like the most qualified person to talk about like identity and shifting identity and all this other stuff, but it is definitely who we believe we are is who we
Mhm.
end up being. And so when you say I'm just a glass half full person, like you identify with that. That's who you are. Therefore, it is true, right? But if
Yeah.
you started saying, I'm just kind of a negative person, I just kind of like I've always been that way. I just like for some reason, like I got a story like my mom was this way, and my grandma was this way, so I'm kind of like this way too. And so you kind of like that could easily be Taylor that way too. But you just chose to tell the story that I am this person, therefore I do this. It's the same reason of like I'm a smoker versus I'm not a smoker. I just don't smoke. It's just I'm not a smoker. I don't have to say. But there's some people that be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a smoker once in a while." Like, I don't know if that's a good example or not. But yeah,
No,
what
I
are your thoughts?
think there was a study on that actually. I remember seeing it before. I mean, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure there was a study about people who wanted to quit smoking, and the people who identified that, "Oh, I'm not a smoker," quit faster than the people that still kind of resonated with that title. So there is something there.
Absolutely. I mean, like you believing that you're a successful entrepreneur now
Mhm.
reinforces that identity, which therefore becomes more true in the external world. And belief has to come, like the identity shift has to come like right before the actual results show up. You just can't just be a millionaire before you believe that you can be a millionaire. I just don't think that it happens like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's this is kind of a goofy example, but my husband and I, we love playing Mario Party together on our Switch, and I I'll have to have him listen to this and hear this statement, and he knows it. I always kick his butt in Mario Party. I always
Mm.
win the mini games, I get the stars, I do all the things that you have to do, and it's funny as we're playing, he always seems to land on the bad luck spaces and always
Interesting.
seems to, have the worst happen to him, and he sits there and he's like, "This always happens to me. This always happens to me." And I'm like, Look, I'm just I'm gonna win. I know I'm gonna win. I'm just an abundant individual. It always works out for me." And I tell him, I'm like, "The reason that that keeps happening to you is because whether you believe it or not, you're wishing it upon yourself, and it happens every single time."
I'm sure he loves to hear that, by the way.
Yeah.
No one loves to hear that.
I literally have I think a text message, this was, like, last week, and I am texting him, and I said, "Can you just admit?" Because he won't always admit it. He sometimes he will, but I was like, "Can you just admit that I'm better at Mario Party than you?"
I love that. I love that. Taylor, this has been so fun. Yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing so much good stuff. Where can people find you? Where can people learn more from you? Follow your YouTube channel, all that good stuff, like your community, all the good things.
Yeah, so YouTube, TaylorPOD or Taylor Posada. On Instagram, same thing. Feel free to come check out my content. Any of my free courses, I would definitely start there. I do have a paid community, but I always say just get started with the free content online. There's so much that you can learn there. So if you just go to TaylorPOD.com, there's a little tab that has 3 free courses, tons of hours of material if you want to learn about print on demand and how to get started.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Taylor. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. You as well.